A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to HJN Season 3. And moreover, it's time that we do some more work on Bandtastic. Now, I've covered a lot of bands in lots of countries and in a lot of periods in history. The 70s, 80s, 90s, so on and so forth. Now it's about time that we get to one that's been well remembered back in the day, much like a lot of bands I've talked about, known as Duran. Yeah, it's pretty much their name. These guys are an English band, much like a lot of other bands that we've heard over the years, like Queen, Arctic Monkeys, and who of course could forget, just as I've talked about before on this channel, well, you got yourself a good amount of things to work with here. But Duran is more than just a sum of where it came from and also how long they've been around for. But to talk about how long they've been around for, pretty much dates back to a pretty long period in history. Because as far back as the early to mid 70s, there were tons of new rock and roll artists and bands coming through. And it was by the 80s that a good majority of these newer bands started to turn up massive successes left and right. Which technically does bring us along to a pretty big part of history where rock actually was conceived as one of the greatest genres of music of all time. But Duran's biggest contributions do in fact allude to 1982's Rio. Probably one of their best remembered albums, especially with their single Hungry Like the Wolf. But the whole thing about their work goes even further than just 1982 and their album Rio or their single Hungry Like the Wolf. Because in 1984 there came along Arena. In 1990 came probably their best album that I've had memories of, Liberty. Especially starting off strong with singles like All Along the Water, Downtown, First Impression. My Antarctica, though, really screams loud towards my ears that I never get tired of hearing it. But to tell you the truth, though, they actually go even further than just this. As a matter of fact, even after they had not necessarily gotten as much success as they did in earlier years, it was actually by the early to mid 90s, well over a decade after they originally formed in England, that they actually saw even bigger success. That's right. Every time you look up on Google right now, you can actually find a lot of their 90s singles actually being at the top of the charts. So, I guess the real question is, why exactly does Hungry Like the Wolf happen to play even more so than any of these more popular singles they got? I suppose it probably earns the popular vote, whereas the success vote actually goes to some of these other singles that practically nobody ever hears. I mean, that just sounds kind of strange. But then again, it's not uncommon. I mean, if you remember Dire Straits, for example, Money for Nothing happens to get the popular vote, whereas there are a few singles that are actually more successful than Money for Nothing. I don't exactly know what it is about certain songs being more popular than others, yet some are actually more successful at a critical and financial rate. But otherwise, I guess there really isn't that much of a point here to keep going with this. But I will say that these guys, utilizing the likes of rock and roll, new wave, pop, and even various other elements in music, for the times that they've been around for, I'm sure that these guys are still going to remain a cultural phenomenon, not just in the United Kingdom, but also elsewhere in the world. I sure as heck am going to hold on to the likes of their albums Arena, Thank You, and Liberty for all time. And I'm sure I could probably download some of the others that they have, but in due time. In due time. That's pretty much all I have to say on that part. Other than that, though, that's pretty much it. If you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.